Have you ever wondered what secrets Radagast hides beyond the misty Anduin, as the silvered stars stretch like scattered gems across the deep velvet of night, and faint echoes from Khazad-dûm hum softly through the valleys, hinting at ancient halls, now empty yet whispering tales of mithril and forgotten laughter? You walk along the riverbank, feeling the chill mist kiss your skin, and the scent of pine and wet stone fills your senses, while somewhere, a lone owl hoots as if delivering messages meant for no one but you. You probably wouldn't survive this, yet here you are, tiptoeing through shadows that glimmer with hints of elvish enchantment. Softly, you notice the silver leaves of Lothlorien trembling in the breeze, and a light chuckle escapes your lips as you imagine Radagast trying to teach a squirrel to recite elvish poetry, a notion simultaneously ridiculous and strangely fitting. Galadriel's presence seems to pulse in the air, not as a figure yet, but as a song that threads through the night, a tune of wisdom, patience, and quiet power, as though the trees themselves are composing an ode to the Lady of Light. And so, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here, because even the quietest whisper deserves its audience. Amid this tapestry of stars, mist, and shadowed echoes, an obscure tidbit surfaces. Some ancient manuscripts hint that Radagast once briefly glimpsed the thoughts of the eagles, an observation still debated among scholars who argue whether this was mere poetic fancy or a true account of his deep communion with nature. You marvel at the subtle humor hidden in the landscapes, where mushrooms bend as if nodding in approval of some unseen jest, and faint glimmers of starlight make you smile, imagining the elven courts giggling at unseen antics. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Before she became the Lady of Light, you walk through forests where the air smells of moss and honey, and the rivers murmur secrets older than Numenor itself, listening as the songs of trees rise and fall in gentle waves, their leaves catching the gold of a hidden sun that seems to linger just for you. You hear the faint rustle of small creatures, and a mischievous breeze seems to tease your hair, carrying with it the memory of Galadriel's laughter, which, if you could capture it, might ruffle even the oldest leaves into fits of giggles. You imagine her wandering these woods as a young elf, barefoot on dewy grass, eyes sparkling with curiosity, and a subtle wit that made even the sternest oaks bend slightly in amusement. She whispered gentle jokes to mushrooms about which of them leaned too far left, and occasionally a squirrel would pause mid-leap as if contemplating the absurdity of her humor. An obscure tidbit emerges. Some forgotten lore mentions that she once conversed with the spirits of the riverbanks at night, an act scarcely recorded and still debated by scholars as to whether it was a true communion or a poetic embellishment of elvish prowess. As you follow her imagined path, you sense the weight of history and potential entwining with the whimsy of youth, a blend that defines the lady you will come to know, her gaze steady, her mind sharp, yet always open to the music of the world around her. A Tolkien canonical fact surfaces naturally. Galadriel was one of the Noldor who remained in Aman during the rebellion of the Noldor, a choice that shaped her long view of fate and morality. Light humor flickers like fireflies as you notice that even the river seems to giggle at her carefully orchestrated steps, and perhaps, somewhere, an owl tuts as if aware that elves, even young ones, are more clever than they admit. The subtle interplay of shadow and moonlight guides your attention to hidden flowers and faint tracks, each whispering stories of resilience, mischief, and potential. And you feel the soft pulse of the world, inviting you to witness the shaping of one of Middle-earth's greatest lights. You step lightly into Lothlorien's heart, where the air shimmers with the gentle hum of unseen stars, and the golden malern leaves flutter like tiny lanterns in a hushed breeze, and the mirror of Galadriel waits silently, its surface rippling with possibilities that twist and bend, as though each drop of reflected water carries 1,000 hidden futures. You gaze into it, feeling the cool glass under your fingertips, sensing the weight of histories both lived and unfulfilled, and a light, almost imperceptible laugh flits across your mind as you imagine the mirror, nudging an ent to take a better angle for viewing itself. Here, an obscure tidbit emerges. Some ancient scrolls speak of the mirror's ability not only to show visions, but to reveal the unspoken desires of those who dare to look, a claim debated among scholars who argue whether it was true prophetic power or the subtle manipulation of light and shadow, a kind of optical jest played upon mortals and elves alike. As you lean closer, you notice tiny ripples reflecting forgotten landscapes, half-sunken ruins from ages past, and the faint hint of Radagast's presence in the distant forests beyond the mirror, as though he too watched with amused curiosity, perhaps muttering about squirrels who have grown far too bold in their pranks. A Tolkien canonical fact arises naturally. The mirror was a gift from Galadriel to Frodo and the Fellowship, meant to test courage and wisdom, not to grant control or dominion, and yet the weight of choice lingers in its depth. You hear the subtle sound of your own breath mingling with the soft trickle of imaginary waters, and in the quiet, a scholarly debate surfaces. Did Galadriel intend the mirror to shape destiny, or merely illuminate it? You smile at the thought of her winking at unseen observers, her light humor hidden in the flicker of visions, as faint glimmers of silver stars dance across the rippling surface, each reflecting 1,000 whispered jokes, secret truths, and the endless wonder of Middle-earth itself, and you feel both humbled and enchanted, suspended between time, space, and the silent, watchful eye of the Lady of Light. As you move deeper into the golden heart of Lothlorien, the soft crunch of leaves beneath your feet is accompanied by the faint, almost musical hum of unseen energies, and you notice a subtle glow catching your eye, warm yet impossible to grasp, emanating from Nenya, the ring of water, resting lightly upon Galadriel's hand. You feel drawn, as if the very air around you bends in reverence, and yet a playful nudge of caution whispers that even the smallest thought of possession might ripple across ages in ways you cannot predict. A light jest, perhaps, from the lady herself, for who could resist teasing mortals with glimpses of power? You watch the delicate ripple of the ring's magic across her fingers, silver threads weaving into the air like liquid moonlight, and you notice the faint shimmer of water droplets hanging in the beams of golden sunlight filtering through Malern leaves, each one reflecting miniature worlds, some familiar, some utterly foreign, all dancing with possibilities. A forgotten fact surfaces. Though she held the ring, Galadriel never used it to dominate or compel, a restraint that both fascinates and baffles scholars who debate whether her wisdom was innate or the product of centuries of careful observation and the quiet counsel of the Valar. As you walk beside her, almost imagining the gentle sway of her cloak brushing against the forest floor, a light joke flits across your mind, imagining Galadriel chiding Frodo for polishing his sword more thoroughly than his own courage, a small smile hidden behind the golden veil of her presence. The air carries the delicate perfume of Lothlorien's flora, mingling with the faint scent of old parchment and candle smoke, reminiscent of libraries in Rivendell, where ancient elves debated the lineage of the Noldor and the subtle distinctions between foresight and fate. And you realize the mirror-like quality of her ring reflects not only power but also intention, a delicate balance that seems impossibly maintained by one who is both ancient and perpetually young. Somewhere nearby, the faint trill of a bird or the rustle of a small woodland creature punctuates the hush, and you smile again, imagining Galadriel gently reproaching a mischievous squirrel for attempting to climb her staff, a reminder that even in the grandeur of her presence, light humor and playfulness persist. As you follow her through the dappled shadows, the golden light shifts and sways, revealing glimpses of paths hidden among the roots and rocks, and you sense the weight of history pressing softly upon you. The subtle music of unseen streams and wind through the canopy creates a cadence that seems to echo the rhythm of her own heartbeat, calm yet deliberate, and you reflect on a scholarly debate whispered among the elves. Did Nenya's magic guide Middle-earth's fate, or did it merely amplify the choices of those who wielded courage and humility? A delicate spiderweb, silver in the sun, glints and catches your attention, and for a fleeting moment you imagine Galadriel teasing it for attempting to entangle a leaf rather than a fly, a tiny jest in a world of cosmic significance, reminding you that even amidst power and prophecy, the world retains its whimsy. The forest seems to lean closer, each tree a witness to centuries of quiet observation, the subtle flicker of wings and rustle of small creatures punctuating the serene rhythm, and you feel yourself drawn into the soft glow of Nenya, aware that here, intention matters more than dominion, and that the Lady of Light's choice to wield restraint over raw power is itself a story worth savoring, a lesson embroidered with subtle humor, wonder, and the infinite patience of time stretching across Middle-earth. The interplay of light on water, the glimmering dust motes floating through golden beams, and the delicate dance of shadows beneath the Malern canopy combine into a sensory symphony. And in that harmony, you feel the quiet pulse of the world, echoing with Tolkien canonical truths, obscure histories, and debates that have persisted for ages, each note a whisper from the lady herself, gentle yet profound, guiding your thoughts to consider the delicate balance between power, wisdom, and laughter, all under the soft, watchful gaze of one who has seen the rise and fall of ages. And you walk on, captivated, enlightened, and quietly amused, knowing that even in the midst of immense responsibility, joy and humor are never far from the Lady of Light's hand. You step carefully beneath the towering Malorn trees of Lothlorien, their golden leaves whispering softly in the gentle breeze, as though sharing secrets with anyone who listens closely, and you feel the subtle vibration of the earth beneath your feet, a quiet hum that hints at hidden corridors and passageways long forgotten, winding beneath the forest floor like veins carrying the lifeblood of the wood. Sunlight flickers through the canopy, casting dappled patterns that dance across the mossy ground, and for a moment you imagine Galadriel herself guiding you silently, her presence felt rather than seen, a delicate, playful jest in the way shadows shift to reveal or conceal secret paths, as though the forest is teasing your curiosity. Somewhere in the recesses of this enchanted wood, a faint trickle of water marks the hidden tunnels beneath the Silverlode River, a forgotten tidbit preserved in whispers of ancient lore, yet still debated by scholars who argue whether these passages were true refuges used by elves during dark times or merely poetic inventions woven into songs and stories for the delight of listeners. The air is heavy with the fragrance of wildflowers and damp earth, mingling with the subtle aroma of ancient bark, and each step you take seems to awaken echoes of long-gone footsteps, faint laughter, and the delicate hum of unseen creatures that peer cautiously from behind twisted roots. You smile at the thought of Galadriel gently chiding a particularly bold squirrel for mistaking a corridor entrance for a shortcut, a soft, light-hearted joke hidden among the grandeur of the forest. A Tolkien canonical fact surfaces naturally. Lothlorien itself was created as a sanctuary after the rebellion of the Noldor, protected and maintained by Galadriel and Celeborn, and this very protection imbues the forest with a calm yet commanding presence that seems to hum with vigilance. As you wander further, the interplay of light and shadow creates optical illusions along the pathways, making tunnels appear to twist and shift like living things, and you find yourself pondering a subtle scholarly debate. Were these corridors engineered for strategic purposes, or were they merely natural formations imbued with elvish magic, a fusion of craft and will? You notice tiny mushrooms arranged along the edges of the paths, their caps forming what seems to be a pattern, or perhaps a silent, whimsical jest orchestrated by the forest itself, reminding you that humor and magic are inseparable here, just as careful observation is inseparable from wisdom. The air grows cooler as you follow a path that seems both familiar and new, and the soft rustle of leaves above mixes with distant bird calls and the occasional faint gurgle of water from a hidden spring, a natural symphony underscoring the forest's quiet majesty. You feel the weight of time pressing gently on your shoulders, yet it is comforting, like the patient hand of a teacher who allows you to explore, discover, and laugh at the small absurdities of the world. The hidden corridors reveal glimpses of roots that twist into arches, rocks carved by centuries of water and wind, and subtle impressions of ancient footsteps that may belong to elves long past, or perhaps to spirits that linger in devotion to the forest. And you cannot help but marvel at the delicate balance between history, magic, and playfulness that suffuses every inch of this enchanted place. Faint glimmers of sunlight catch on dewdrops, sparkling like miniature stars along the path, and you imagine Galadriel quietly observing, a small smile playing on her lips as she notes your curiosity, your small stumbles, and your awed fascination. She might even whisper a gentle joke, just enough for you to catch a fleeting chuckle without disturbing the serene majesty of Lothlorien, reminding you that light-heartedness and wisdom can coexist, and that the forest itself, guided by her care, teaches not only vigilance, but also joy. Every sound, every shimmer, and every subtle scent seems imbued with intention, the forest alive with quiet humor, the weight of history, and the infinite patience of its guardians. And as you continue through the labyrinth of roots and leaves, you feel the pulse of a world both ancient and living, rich with stories untold, debates unresolved, and laughter waiting in the shadows, guiding your footsteps deeper into the hidden corridors where the Lady of Light's presence lingers, steady, knowing, and gently amused. As you tread softly along a winding path beneath the golden Malern canopy, the forest around you seems to breathe, and you begin to hear faint, almost imperceptible voices threading through the rustle of leaves and the gentle trickle of hidden streams. Melodies of the Eldar past carried in the wind, songs older than any living memory, each note imbued with sorrow, joy, and the quiet humor of ages gone by. You pause to listen, feeling the weight of history pressing softly against your senses, as though each leaf and root is attuned to the stories of elves long departed, whispering secrets to those who have learned to hear. A subtle, almost mischievous giggle dances through the air, and you imagine Galadriel gently nudging an overconfident squirrel to reconsider its path, a reminder that even in this solemn symphony, playfulness endures. An obscure tidbit surfaces. In some rarely referenced scrolls, it is suggested that Galadriel possessed a harp that could summon echoes of ancient voices lost to time, a relic debated by scholars as either a true instrument of memory or a poetic invention meant to illustrate her empathy for the past. You sense the faint shimmer of light reflecting off dewdrops on leaves, each one catching a fragment of sound, like tiny prisms carrying whispers of battles, feasts, and laughter long faded, and you marvel at the intricate web of history, magic, and memory, where even a joke hidden in a leaf's tremble can convey centuries of elven experience. A Tolkien canonical fact asserts itself naturally. The Eldar, particularly the Noldor, carried songs that preserved histories, teachings, and prophecies, and Galadriel, as one of the oldest among them, served as both custodian and interpreter of these ethereal melodies, allowing their wisdom to resonate subtly through the woods. As you continue, the interplay of shadows and sunlight creates patterns along the forest floor that seem to dance in time with the unseen music, and you notice small creatures moving in sync with this rhythm, their movements seeming choreographed by some invisible conductor, perhaps a gentle jest orchestrated by the lady herself. Scholarly debate arises again. Did these voices merely reflect memories encoded in the trees and streams? Or did they represent a form of consciousness unique to the Eldar, a living archive that transcended physical time? You smile at the thought of Galadriel teasing the birds, whispering that even their songs should follow proper elvish cadence, a humorous notion that softens the weight of history while enriching it. Each step you take seems measured against the pulse of the forest, each breath carrying the scent of moss, damp earth, and wildflowers, mingling with the soft resonance of unseen waterfalls and the hushed rustle of ancient wings, creating a tapestry of sensory experience that feels simultaneously grounded and otherworldly. The air itself seems thick with wisdom and playful mischief, as if the forest and its lady are teaching patience, attentiveness, and the subtle delight of noticing small wonders, the soft inflection of wind through the leaves echoing lessons of empathy, foresight, and quiet humor. Tiny mushrooms dot the path like ornaments, and you imagine Galadriel whispering a small jest to each one for standing just a bit too tall, a reminder that lightheartedness can coexist with solemnity and that even the smallest details in Middle-earth carry meaning, history, and the gentle guidance of those who see far beyond the ordinary. The voices swell slightly as you move deeper, and you catch hints of playful arguments and delicate laughter entwined with profound teachings, the music of memory and experience resonating through the very fibers of the forest, inviting you to become part of the continuum, aware of the fleetingness of your own presence, yet enchanted by the enduring melody that Galadriel sustains, a symphony of wisdom, humor, and light, threading endlessly through the living tapestry of Lothlorien, urging you to listen, to learn, and to smile gently at the world's hidden wonders. You step into a quiet glade where the golden light of Lothlorien filters through the high canopy, softening the edges of every leaf and root, and you sense the presence of deliberation, as if the very forest itself holds its breath, while Galadriel and Celeborn confer in silence, their expressions serene, yet infinitely watchful. You walk lightly, careful not to disturb the subtle hum of power that seems to pulse from their forms, and notice the faint rustle of leaves and the distant murmur of a stream, as if nature itself participates in the council, lending its voice to the careful weighing of choices and consequences that could ripple across Middle-earth. In the soft shadows, you catch a glimpse of a mischievous squirrel attempting to sneak past unnoticed, and you imagine Galadriel casting a wry glance at the creature, perhaps whispering a gentle joke about its audacity, a reminder that even in solemnity, humor and lightness have their place. An obscure tidbit drifts to your attention. Some lesser-known Elvish chronicles hint that minor houses within Lothlorien maintained secret compacts and alliances, carefully hidden beneath the gaze of the lady, a detail still debated among scholars regarding its authenticity and whether it reflects political subtlety or poetic license. The air carries the mingled scent of moss, wildflowers, and ancient bark, and you notice faint echoes of footsteps, perhaps those of elves long past, walking the same paths, offering counsel in memory and in spirit. Tolkien canonical fact, Galadriel's wisdom and authority extended beyond her immediate realm, influencing the Fellowship's decisions and the subtle courses of Middle-earth's events, yet always tempered by restraint, humility, and foresight. As you follow her gaze, you see the light flicker across the golden leaves, and each movement seems choreographed, as though the forest itself is leaning in to witness her silent deliberations, providing rhythm and emphasis to her every thought. Scholarly debate surfaces quietly in your mind. Did the subtle counsel and her interventions merely preserve balance, or did they actively shape the unfolding of fate, nudging events with invisible hands? A tiny mushroom wobbles slightly in the breeze, and you smile, imagining Galadriel teasing it for leaning too far, a light jest amid the weight of councils and the shadows of ancient deliberations. The forest's pulse is steady, a soft rhythm that underscores the gravity of thought, yet the occasional trill of a distant bird or the faint whisper of wind through branches brings levity, a reminder that even the most powerful entities cannot escape the playful intricacies of life. You notice the interplay of shadow and gold as the sun dips slightly, painting the scene with ever-shifting patterns that seem to mirror the subtle dynamics of discussion, persuasion, and choice that take place in these hidden moments, each glance and gesture weighted with centuries of experience. Your senses attune to the gentle sounds of the forest, and you feel the calm authority of Galadriel guiding not just her people, but the very environment around her, creating a harmony of purpose, awareness, and subtle amusement, a living council that breathes, thinks, and observes alongside her. The path ahead is dappled with golden light and shadow, and you feel a deep sense of respect for the silent deliberation unfolding, aware that even in stillness, influence radiates outward, shaping events, thoughts, and perhaps even the course of history, while tiny, hidden jokes like the squirrel's mischief or the slight tilt of a leaf remind you that humor and gentle play are threads woven into the vast tapestry of wisdom, patience, and light that Galadriel nurtures, offering lessons both profound and delightfully human in their subtlety. You follow Galadriel along the winding paths of Lothlorien as sunlight drifts through the golden canopy, scattering light across the forest floor in dancing patterns, and you feel the quiet weight of anticipation that surrounds her presence, a resonance that seems to pulse from every leaf, root, and hidden stream, as if the forest itself acknowledges the delicate balance of power she carries. With each step, you sense the glow of Nenya upon her finger, subtle yet commanding, illuminating not only the path before you, but also the invisible threads of destiny stretching across Middle-earth, and you realize that every gift she offers carries both promise and responsibility, a duality as old as the elves themselves. You watch as she gestures lightly to the Fellowship, her hands moving with the grace of flowing water, bestowing cloaks woven with starlight and subtle enchantments that provide protection, comfort, and guidance. You imagine the faint smile that touches her lips as she teases Frodo gently for the careful way he handles his cloak, a light joke threading through the solemnity of the moment, revealing that even in acts of great significance, levity and play endure. An obscure tidbit surfaces. Some marginal notes in Elvish manuscripts suggest that Galadriel once considered withholding gifts entirely, testing the courage and humility of those who sought her counsel, a notion still debated among scholars regarding whether this would have altered the Fellowship's fate significantly or merely served as a subtle exercise in character formation. The air carries the faint scent of moss, wildflowers, and the lingering sweetness of Lothlorien's ancient groves, mingling with a distant echo of running water and the soft murmur of unseen creatures moving through the undergrowth. Each sensory detail underscores the quiet majesty and attentive care woven into every gesture, every word, and every glance, as if the very forest conspires to amplify her light and temper it with gentleness. A Tolkien canonical fact reveals itself naturally. Galadriel, as one of the oldest of the Eldar in Middle-earth, exercised profound influence not through domination but through guidance, foresight, and the subtle empowerment of others, a principle that defines her interactions with the Fellowship. The sunlight shifts subtly as you move, highlighting hidden paths and revealing miniature treasures in the foliage. Glimmering dewdrops, intricately patterned leaves, and delicate webs of silver spun between branches. And you smile at the thought of Galadriel quietly teasing a spider for choosing an inconvenient location. Another gentle jest to remind you that humor lives even in the midst of great responsibility. As you walk, the forest seems to lean closer, attuned to the lady's presence. Each sound, the ripple of water, the faint rustle of wings, the whisper of wind, forming a tapestry that both supports and responds to her, a living, breathing accompaniment to the giving of gifts and the weighing of burdens, the unseen threads of history and choice intertwining with the subtle playfulness of life. Scholarly debate echoes softly in your mind. Did her gifts simply prepare the Fellowship for what was to come? Or did they actively shape the unfolding of events, nudging hearts and choices in ways that were subtle yet irrevocable? You feel the quiet pulse of possibility in the air, the delicate balance of guidance and freedom, power and restraint, and notice that even the smallest elements, the tilt of a leaf, the glimmer of a sunlit cobweb, or the faint trill of a bird, seem orchestrated to convey lessons in courage, wisdom, and gentle amusement. Every step brings you closer to understanding that the light she offers is not only illumination but also a subtle responsibility, a gift that asks for discernment, courage, and humility, while the soft, hidden humor woven throughout her interactions reminds you that joy, play, and delight are inseparable from wisdom, and that in the forests of Lothlorien, even amidst destiny's weight, laughter and lightness persist, carried forward by one whose power is measured not by dominion, but by understanding, care, and the gentle touch of a lady who sees far beyond the immediate. You follow the gentle rise of a glade where the golden light of Lothlorien softens the edges of every leaf and branch, and as you move, a subtle breeze carries whispers from the west, faint echoes of Valinor itself, distant melodies of the undying lands threading through the rustle of leaves and the murmurs of hidden streams. You feel the tug of something ancient, a resonance that seems to pull your thoughts toward horizons you cannot see, and yet it is warm, inviting, and threaded with the quiet humor of a world that has endured both joy and sorrow across countless ages. Shadows stretch and sway beneath the malorn trees as you imagine Galadriel pausing to gaze westward, the faint glimmer of starlight in her eyes catching the rhythm of the wind, and for a moment, you hear the subtle, almost imperceptible laughter of leaves rustling in agreement with her thoughts. A delicate jest that speaks of centuries of knowing and observing the world with both seriousness and lightheartedness. An obscure tidbit surfaces. Some rarely cited Elvish manuscripts suggest that in her youth she attempted to perceive the currents of the stars themselves, and whether she truly succeeded or whether it is poetic embellishment continues to be debated by scholars who delight in weighing possibility against myth. The air is rich with the scent of moss, wildflowers, and distant waters, each inhalation deepening your sense of connection to a living, breathing Middle-earth, a world in which history, magic, and humor intermingle seamlessly. You imagine Galadriel playfully nudging a wayward squirrel or chiding a wandering bird for interrupting the harmony of the forest, subtle jokes hidden within the cadence of life itself. A Tolkien canonical fact asserts itself. Galadriel was the only elf remaining in Middle-earth who had seen the light of the two trees of Valinor, a memory that imbues her presence with a profound gravitas and quiet authority, yet also with a reflective, occasionally playful spirit. You notice tiny glimmers of light reflecting on dewdrops and the surfaces of hidden streams, each seeming to carry fragments of memory, thought, and possibility. And as you walk, a soft, scholarly debate takes shape in your mind. Did Galadriel's long gaze toward the west guide her choices? Or was it her innate wisdom that harmonized with the echoes of Valinor to shape the course of Middle-earth? You smile at the thought of the leaves rustling conspiratorially, as if sharing a secret joke with those patient enough to listen, and feel the subtle humor threading through the interplay of shadows and gold light, reinforcing that even the weightiest matters in this world carry room for delight. The forest seems to breathe in response to her thoughts, each gust of wind, ripple of water, and rustle of creatures harmonizing with her presence, creating a symphony of movement, light, and sound that is at once ancient and immediate, solemn and playful, a living testament to her stewardship and connection to all things. You feel the gentle pull of this awareness, a mixture of reverence, curiosity, and quiet amusement as you navigate the shifting patterns of leaves and light, attentive to each small detail that communicates lessons, history, and subtle levity. Tiny flowers dot the path, their petals catching the sunlight and glinting like miniature stars, and you imagine Galadriel offering each a whispered jest, a playful thought meant only for the attentive observer, a reminder that even amid the vast sweep of time and destiny, joy and humor persist in the smallest things. The interplay of light, shadow, sound, and scent creates a rhythm that mirrors the subtle dance of choice, influence, and perception, where each moment carries both weight and levity, teaching patience, attentiveness, and delight. And as you follow her silent lead, you understand that the echoes from Valinor are not only reminders of what has been lost or gained, but invitations to perceive the world with clarity, empathy, and an appreciation for the understated humor threading through existence, a delicate balance that the Lady of Light embodies in every gesture, glance, and breath, guiding your journey with quiet wisdom, gentle amusement, and the infinite patience of one who has seen the rise and fall of ages, the subtle jokes of nature, and the enduring power of light threaded through shadow. As the golden light of Lothlorien fades into the deep indigo of evening, you walk slowly along the banks of a quiet stream, its surface catching the last glimmers of sun and reflecting them like liquid gold, while the soft hum of distant waters mingles with the whisper of leaves overhead, creating a lullaby woven from centuries of forest memory. You feel the gentle pulse of the earth beneath your feet and the faint brush of a breeze against your skin, as if the world itself exhales in preparation for night, a rhythm both calming and infinitely complex, carrying the subtle presence of Galadriel in each shadow, each shimmer, each gentle movement that the forest allows to pass unnoticed. You sense her watching, a quiet vigilance that reassures even as it impresses, her gaze stretching far beyond the trees, toward the distant horizons of Valinor and beyond, a reach both literal and metaphorical, carrying the weight of wisdom, foresight, and quiet humor that has endured across millennia. A faint chuckle seems to flit through the air as you imagine her nudging an overly curious squirrel to step aside or teasing a wayward bird for its untimely song. Subtle reminders that lightheartedness persists even in solemn moments. An obscure tidbit drifts to your awareness. Some elves whispered that Galadriel could sense the heartbeat of the rivers themselves, a notion debated endlessly among scholars who argue whether it was poetic metaphor or true communion with nature. Yet the idea feels palpable as you listen to the gentle rush of the stream and the soft murmur of hidden springs. Tolkien canonical fact: she remained the Lady of Lothlorien, bearer of Nenya, without ever succumbing to the temptation of domination, her restraint a guiding principle that influenced both the Fellowship and the subtle currents of Middle-earth's unfolding history. As darkness settles, the soft glow of stars emerges, scattered across the sky like diamonds embedded in velvet, their light reflecting in the rippling waters and illuminating the forest in a quiet, silvery glow, while faint fireflies drift lazily, their gentle flickers adding a rhythm to the scene that feels orchestrated by unseen hands, perhaps a jest or gentle amusement from the lady herself, reminding you that even the smallest elements of the world can carry meaning, guidance, and delight. The air is fragrant with moss, damp earth, and the faint scent of wildflowers, mingling with the warmth of a fading campfire whose smoke curls in lazy spirals, carrying memories of the day's passage and the lessons imparted, both profound and playful. A subtle scholarly debate surfaces as you ponder whether Galadriel's influence subtly shaped the Fellowship's journey through indirect guidance, or whether her presence merely illuminated their choices, allowing destiny to flow while providing occasional nudges cloaked in gentle humor. You walk along the riverbank, noticing the delicate ripple of water catching starlight and the soft rustle of leaves, punctuated by distant calls of night birds, creating a sensory tapestry that is both grounding and ethereal, a perfect accompaniment to the lady's quiet farewell, her gaze encompassing both the immediate forest and the far horizons, threading the weight of ages with the lightness of laughter. Tiny flowers and mushrooms dot the path, their forms catching moonlight like scattered gems, and you imagine Galadriel whispering gentle jests to them, subtle humor interwoven with the dignity of her presence, a reminder that even the most enduring power is enhanced, not diminished, by playfulness. As you pause to drink in the scene, the river's hush, the distant starlight, and the faint warmth of embers, a sense of peace settles over you, the kind that comes from walking with one who carries knowledge, history, subtle jokes, and profound wisdom in equal measure, and you realize that the lady's farewell is not a closing, but an invitation to perceive, to wonder, to laugh gently at the world's hidden marvels, and to carry forward the light she nurtures quietly, carefully, and always with joy.